Hey, it's Joe on the Reds Hunting Channel here. Got a boot comparison. Don't buy either set of these boots before you watch the entire video, because I do have some insights I want to share. Now, if you follow this channel or you've been shopping for Crispi altitude boots, you've probably seen my review and testimonial of the Crispi altitudes, which I put a tremendous amount of miles on there. I am an avid backcountry fanatic. When I am not guiding flight fishing, I am in the mountains several days a week looking for mule deer, bear, elk, whatever. I'm a junkie for that. The other boot I'm going to compare is the Lapponia III, Crispi's new version of Lapponia. I recently migrated from these altitudes to the Lapponia, and despite them being pretty similar in weight, I feel like the overall weight of the boots is pretty negligible. You know, supposedly the altitude's a little heavier, but you'd be hard pressed to be able to tell the difference. I thought they would be more similar than they are. And the number one thing that I've realized, I've been doing a bunch of summer scouting, is that the Lapponia does not breathe nearly as well. And I knew that would be a factor, because it is essentially a full grain leather with a very closed tongue profile right there. But the wide tongue profile and the synthetic tongue of the altitude just breathes so much better than these Lapponias. So for a hot, dry weather boot, I'm thinking shed hunting, spring bear, August bear season, which opens up pretty quick here in the Northwest. I think that a breathable boot would be a bit of an advantage. In fact, I think I'm going to get another set of synthetic-based boots because of the breathability. Fit and comfort-wise, I've got really no issue with Lapponias. One thing on Crispi boots, I'll just say right off the bat, take the felt insole that's inside and throw it away and get yourself a set of super feet. That slight additional arch in the middle right there cups your heel, and your foot will stay put much, much better. So assuming we've upgraded to a super foot type insole, which we sell them at Reds, of course. Other than that, the boot itself has been very, very comfortable. So no issues there, other than just massive amounts of moisture from sweat staying inside the boot itself. And I don't have particularly sweaty feet, but I do put a lot of miles on during the hot weather. So one thing I'll say about Crispi boots, I've had, I don't know, 8 pairs of Crispi boots. I've been wearing them for years, way before we were a retailer. They're the most waterproof boots I've ever worn, and I've been through Loas, quite a few sets of Mendel's, and God, it's almost embarrassing at this point to admit, Danners as well. And those boots would always leak right away, but Crispis are extremely waterproof. In my opinion, the downside of having the boot extremely waterproof is however many layers of Gore-Tex they're adhering to one another inside this boot. It's very, very waterproof, but it does not breathe as well as I would like. So I'm reserving my Lapponias primarily for cooler, more damp conditions, and having essentially full grain leather throughout the bottom of the boot. Grease those up with some Crispi cream. They're going to be super waterproof, but they were a little bit of a letdown for the extreme hot weather that I've currently been in. However, if you're going to have like one set of boots and be a one boot, kind of a one trick pony for boots, it's a fine choice. Just know that they're not going to be nearly as breathable as some of the other options, like the altitude with that really exposed synthetic tongue. That one really got rid of the moisture and the heat for me. The other thing I will say about the Lapponias is it is just, and I assume they're built with different lasts. I think they're built with different lasts, which is the form they build the boot around, but the Lapponia itself just feels a little bit bigger in the foot box. But one small mistake I made, I wear an 11 in everything, like all my shoes are 11s, and I bought the standard 11, which is a 44.5. And every Crispi boot has the sizing there, and so it's a US 11, 44.5 European. And I really should have went down to the 44s because I've been wearing it just with a very thin sock. But these boots are going to be an excellent kind of mid-season boot for me, and I intend to wear them with a thicker sock later in the season. The other thing I plan to do is they are a little bit looser than the altitude, kind of in the midsection here, but I need to get these things soaking wet from the outside and then wear them until they're dry. And what I've found when I break in leather boots is that leather will shrink up and grip my foot a little bit tighter. I'm still kind of in the process of getting those things to shrivel up and fit really tight around my foot. And I've actually got quite a few miles on these. I just haven't been wearing them in wet conditions. Normally there's enough stream crossings that I can do that while I'm actively scouting and breaking boots in. And then back to the waterproofing, you know, and maybe you've had this, you know, you can relate to this, but like leather boots I've worn in the past, when I do get really, really sweaty, I'm on a long hot trek, you know, 10 mile or so, I will actually sweat, and then I will see the sweat coming through the leather on the boots, but I have not seen that at all on these Lapponias. And I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, but they think that's a testament to the Gore-Tex quality and how they've got this boot well sealed up. So I think the waterproof features, and I've worn them in stream crossings and tested them, and I ran a hose over them on my first couple of break-ins to get the leather wet and help make it supple. I think that's just a great exercise when you're breaking in boots, but I haven't been able to actually get sweat to come back out through the boot. So not as breathable as I would have expected, but they do have a very nice soft feel to them. You know, when I'm in steep terrain, my boot will flex and move with me as long as my ankle's tied in tight. I haven't had no complaints about support and steep rocky side hilling. Very equivalent to the altitude as far as overall support. And these are just a tiny bit more rigid. You know, even these are well worn, and I can still tell that those are just a little bit stiffer as far as feel than the Lapponia. So if you've had a bad experience with stiff boots, the Lapponia being a flex rating of, I think just 2. My director is nodding. Yeah, these have a flex rating of just 2. Nice, soft, supple boot, pretty sneaky overall. But as far as like a midsummer hiking and scouting boot, if you're doing a ton of that and a ton of like August bear hunting, early archery elk hunting in hot, dry climate, I recommend probably opting for an altitude or a slightly more breathable boot. Lastly, I mentioned this on a different review that you can go watch for the altitude, but we think it's especially important for your boot maintenance and longevity to just make sure that you're properly treating these boots to keep that leather soft and supple so that the joints and stitches aren't stretching and moving unnaturally. Keeping that leather soft is a really good way to promote the lifespan of your Crispi boot. So that's just kind of my rundown. Like I said, if I could do it over again, I would probably buy a half size smaller. But what I'll do is I'll end up just wearing a thicker sock in these later on, and I may get a little bit more shrinking action. So it's not ridiculously large, but I probably could have went with a half size under, which is what I did in my altitudes, and they fit absolutely excellent. When I went with the Lapponias, I just went with a straight 11. So hopefully that helps you for size and fit guide. One last thing, there's gonna be a link to the boots in the video description, but if you wanna read our Crispi boot fit guarantee policy, we have a very easy return process. We ship out of our warehouse, which is downstairs, every day, and we are a very easy place to buy boots and make a return. If you wear them around the house, they don't fit quite right. In fact, I think for like $1, you can get free return insurance. So it's we're a great place to shop from. If you haven't shopped with Reds before, give us a shot. I think we'll earn your business. So that's the rundown on the Altitude versus Lapponia 3 boots.